When I write something stupid in the chat, I intentionally leave a message and then delete it immediately. That way everyone thinks I have some dark secret and starts asking questions. I have a confession. Whenever I write something stupid in a group chat, I don't just delete it to hide my mistake. I actually intentionally leave the message there for a few seconds, then delete it, just so people will think I have a dark secret. It all started a couple of years ago, back when I first joined this big group chat with my classmates. I was the quiet one, the kind of person who rarely sends anything, always lurking, always just reading the chaos everyone else created. People barely noticed me. And for a while, that was fine. I told myself I didn't care. But the truth is, I wanted attention. I wanted them to see me as interesting, mysterious, maybe even a little dangerous. The first time it happened was completely by accident. I had typed something really dumb, like a bad pun about our math teacher, and immediately regretted it. I hit delete right away. But in those few seconds, apparently 2 people saw the notification, message deleted. And then came the questions. Wait, what did you just send? Why did you delete it? Come on, show us. The way they suddenly cared about me was addictive. I felt this strange power. They didn't know what I wrote, and now their imagination was running wild. To them, I could have said literally anything, from a deep personal secret to an insult to some spicy gossip. In that moment, I realized I had stumbled onto a trick. If you act like you're hiding something, people can't resist trying to uncover it. So, the next week, I did it again. Only this time, it wasn't an accident. I typed out a nonsense sentence like, "Bananas are just cucumbers in disguise," waited 5 seconds, and then deleted it. Immediately, the chat blew up with, "Dude, what was that? Why are you always deleting messages? Are you trolling us?" And here's where the real fun began. I didn't answer. I stayed completely silent, like some shady character in a movie. The less I said, the more they speculated. Some of them thought I was bad-mouthing someone in the chat. Others joked I was confessing love to random people and then panicking. One even suggested I was drunk texting in the middle of the day. The truth was far less interesting. I was just sitting in my room, laughing at how dramatic everyone was being over literally nothing. At first, it was harmless. Just a silly way to get some attention without actually putting myself out there. But then I started to escalate it. I would send slightly more suspicious lines before deleting them. Like, "I think I'm finally ready to tell you all the truth," delete. Or, "She doesn't even know that I know," delete. Each time, the chat exploded. People would DM me privately, begging to know what it was about. Some thought I was covering up some relationship drama. Others thought I had dirt on one of the teachers. The funniest part was watching how their stories snowballed. One person's joke theory turned into another person's certainty. I was literally saying nothing, but somehow I became the mysterious guy of the group. But then came the night where things went way too far. I typed something as a joke, something I thought was clearly fake, but when I deleted it, people took it seriously. I wrote, "If anyone finds out what's in the basement, I'm screwed." Delete. And immediately, the paranoia hit the chat like a bomb. What basement? Wait, does he mean his basement? Bro, what the hell are you hiding down there? Someone even screenshotted the notification before I deleted it and sent it back to the chat like evidence. I couldn't stop laughing at first, but then it spiraled. They started making actual theories. One girl swore I must have some secret stash of alcohol hidden away. Another guy jokingly said I was hiding a body. And the worst part? Some people believed him. For the next week, every time I walked into class, people whispered basement under their breath like it was some kind of code word. One of my closest friends even pulled me aside and asked, "Hey, you'd tell me if you were in trouble, right?" That's when it hit me. I had accidentally built a legend around myself. All because I couldn't handle sending stupid jokes without regretting them. And to this day, nobody knows the truth. Nobody knows that all those deleted messages were just nonsense. Nobody knows I never had a dark secret. I was just a bored kid who wanted people to notice me. But here's the twist. Even now, years later, I still sometimes do it. I'll be in a group chat. I'll write something dumb like, "I finally found it," or "It's happening again." Leave it just long enough for someone to see, and then delete it. The reactions never get old. So, now I'm wondering, was this harmless fun, or did I actually manipulate my friends into thinking I was more interesting than I am? What do you think? Would you ever do something like that? Or do you think I should finally come clean and admit that my secrets were just bananas in disguise? After that first basement incident, I thought maybe it would die down, that people would eventually realize I was just joking, that the mystery would fade like all silly rumors do. But no, somehow, instead of fading, it grew. What I thought was harmless attention-seeking had turned into a full-blown urban legend within my friend group. It started small. Every time I entered the classroom, someone would whisper something about the basement or make a vague joke about the hidden truth. At first, I laughed along with them, feeling a little proud of how chaotic a few deleted messages had caused. But soon, it began to feel heavier, like I'd created a thing I couldn't control. It was Friday night when things really spiraled. There was this online group chat for our class, active mostly at night, full of memes, inside jokes, and random complaints about homework. That night, I had just come back from a boring family dinner, tired and scrolling mindlessly. I saw the chat buzzing and decided to join in. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, and then it hit me. I could escalate the basement joke. I typed, "I'm thinking it's time to finally reveal what's in the basement." I paused. My thumb hovered over the delete button. And then, for reasons I can't explain, I didn't delete it immediately. I sent it. The reaction was instantaneous. Notifications flooded my phone, a cacophony of messages screaming curiosity, fear, and laughter. People were begging, demanding, threatening to come over and check the basement themselves. My phone literally wouldn't stop vibrating. I panicked. I realized that I had just thrown gasoline on the fire. But instead of apologizing or clarifying, I did what I always did. I leaned into it. I typed back, "Not yet, maybe tomorrow night. You wouldn't believe it if I told you anyway." The chaos reached a fever pitch. One of my classmates, who was a notorious drama queen, started demanding everyone, saying she had seen me lurking around the basement area at school, which, of course, didn't exist. Another claimed she had heard noises coming from the storage room, insisting it was totally suspicious. By the end of the night, a few people had created a group chat called Basement Watchers, dedicated entirely to speculating what was hidden. And here's the thing, I wasn't even thinking anymore. The line between a joke and reality had blurred. People were genuinely scared or excited, I don't even know, which made me feel this weird rush of power. I kept sending ambiguous messages, half joking, half mocking, knowing full well that the more I said, the more they would overthink it. It got worse in real life. At school the next day, every whisper felt loaded. Someone would glance in my direction and smirk, and I knew exactly what they were thinking. Basement, 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 repeated in their heads. Teachers noticed something was off too, though they didn't ask directly. I started feeling like a character in my own prank that had gone rogue. The absolute peak came one afternoon during a class project. We were assigned to work in groups, and of course the basement watchers were all together. Between presenting slides and passing notes, one girl, eyes wide with mock horror, whispered, "I'm telling you, we need to find out what he's hiding. It's serious." I laughed nervously. "It's a joke, it's just a joke," I kept telling myself, but even I started questioning it. What had started as a couple of deleted messages had become a full-blown narrative, complete with conspiracies, secret plans, and imaginary dangers. People were literally analyzing my every move, waiting for some reveal that would never happen. By this point, I was addicted. Not to attention exactly, but to the drama. There was something thrilling about being the center of curiosity, the one person who could control what everyone thought without actually doing anything real. I had created suspense with nothing but imagination and timing. And every day, I became bolder. I would leave messages like, "Found something, can't say yet," or "You won't believe what's under there." Then I'd delete them, and a frenzy would start all over again. But the thrill came with a cost. One night, after a long day, I checked my phone and realized I couldn't keep up with the chaos. People were messaging constantly, creating fan theories, drawing diagrams of what could possibly be in the basement. Some even started sending screenshots of the storage room in the school, overlaying them with arrows and question marks, as if they were detective work. I was stunned. I had literally done nothing except type a few lines and delete them. And now, somehow, I had instilled a sort of mass hysteria. That's when I realized I had lost control. What started as a joke had taken a life of its own. Even worse, I began to feel this tiny, nagging guilt. Was it still funny if people were genuinely anxious, even slightly paranoid? Was I just being manipulative? And yet, the next day, I found myself typing again. This time, I sent a single, simple message. Maybe it's too dangerous to show you. Delete. Within minutes, the chat erupted once more. I sat there, smiling at the chaos I'd engineered, part of me horrified, part of me thrilled. But deep down, I knew the truth was still safe with me. No one knew the basement was just a figment of my imagination. No one knew that I was the puppet master of this harmless, or maybe not so harmless, madness. I can't even begin to count the number of theories they've made about me since then. Sometimes I wonder if it's better that they keep guessing, or if I should finally reveal the truth. But something inside me, something mischievous, refuses to let go. So, I'll ask you this. If you had the power to create suspense and curiosity with just a few deleted messages, would you stop? Or would you let the chaos grow, just like I did? It all went too far one Saturday night. I was sitting in my room, scrolling through the group chat, casually adding a few more cryptic messages about the basement. I thought it would be harmless fun, like always. I had no idea that this particular night would mark the moment when my joke completely escaped my control. I typed a message. I think someone finally found out about the basement, and I didn't delete it this time. Not immediately. I left it there, watching the notifications pour in. My phone vibrated nonstop. People were messaging in panic, excitement, and outright hysteria. They were demaying each other, making plans, forming teams, like it was some kind of real-life adventure game. I couldn't help but smirk. This was the ultimate proof of my power. I had created a myth out of nothing. At first, the messages were the usual mix of curiosity and joking. But then, someone posted a photo of the school's old storage room, taken during a study break. They claimed, and highlighted a shadowy corner with arrows. The caption, "Could this be it?" I laughed nervously, but even that laugh sounded hollow. People were starting to take it seriously. The chat went completely wild. Some insisted on going there in person. Others were calling each other in panic, whispering about secret cameras or hidden doors. I kept typing vague, ambiguous responses, pushing the story just a little further. It didn't take long before real fear crept in. One girl started messaging me privately, saying she was genuinely scared and that I had better explain. I felt a pang of guilt for the first time since this all started. Was it still a joke if people were actually frightened? But I couldn't stop. Something inside me thrived on the drama. Then came the most intense message. "We're going tonight. Meet at the school at midnight." My heart sank. I hadn't expected anyone to actually do it. My joke was supposed to stay online, a harmless spectacle, not a real-life adventure into a supposedly dangerous basement. For a moment, I considered confessing the truth, telling them it was all made up. But pride and curiosity held me back. I wanted to see what would happen. I spent the next few hours nervously pacing my room. I watched the chat updates with a mixture of fear and excitement. People were planning their mission in great detail, deciding who would bring flashlights, cameras, even snacks. I realized I had created not just suspense, but a collective obsession. At midnight, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking the chat, seeing updates from the group as they made their way to the school. My stomach twisted with anxiety. What if someone got caught by a teacher or security? What if something went horribly wrong? And yet, I couldn't stop myself from watching. Hours passed. I kept refreshing the chat, seeing blurry photos and frantic messages. "It's dark in here. I think I see something. Do not go further." My chest tightened with a mix of guilt and excitement. I had created a living story, one that had escaped my control entirely. Then, in the middle of the chaos, someone messaged me directly. "We found something. You have to come see it." I froze. My first instinct was to laugh nervously and tell them to calm down, but the thrill was irresistible. I typed back, "I don't know if I can. Be careful." And that was it. For the next hour, the chat was flooded with photos, messages, and updates. Everyone was alive, but clearly shaken. They had discovered nothing. The storage room was empty, dusty, completely mundane. But the adrenaline, the fear, and the anticipation had made it feel real. My legend had reached its peak. The next morning, I saw them at school. Their eyes were wide, a mix of exhaustion, excitement, and lingering fear. Some were laughing nervously. Others glared at me with suspicion. They didn't know the truth. They didn't know the basement never existed. They didn't know that the entire adventure was sparked by nothing more than a few carefully deleted messages and a bored kid craving attention. It was a strange feeling seeing my friends in that state. Part of me felt proud, part of me horrified. I had managed to control their emotions, manipulate their curiosity, and orchestrate a real-life story, all without ever physically doing anything. But the weight of it hit me. I realized how easily people's perceptions could be twisted, how a tiny lie could balloon into a full-blown legend. For days afterward, I was both the hero and the villain of my own little myth. People whispered about the basement, still speculating about what could have been there. Some even suggested it was haunted. I kept my silence, savoring the power and drama I had created. And yet, deep down, I knew I was playing with fire. The line between harmless fun and real consequences had been crossed. I hadn't just sent a few silly messages anymore. I had sparked an obsession, and for a moment, it had scared my friends. I still visit that chat sometimes just to drop a little hint, a teasing line, a message that disappears seconds later. I watch the reactions. I laugh, I cringe, I thrill at the chaos. But I also wonder, how far can I push this before someone actually finds out the truth? Before my joke stops being funny? So here's the question. If you could create a legend with nothing but words and timing, would you stop when it got out of hand? Or would you push it just a little further like I did? It happened one Tuesday afternoon, completely unexpectedly. The group chat had quieted down for a while. Everyone seemed to have moved on from the basement saga, or so I thought. I had been slipping in small, deleted messages now and then, just to remind everyone that the legend was alive. But that day, I didn't even touch my phone until I saw a notification from one of the basement watchers. It said simply, "We think we found the key." My stomach dropped. I froze, reading it over and over. Key? What key? I had no idea they had somehow linked this to an actual object. Immediately, the chat exploded. Photos of random objects at school, sketches, and diagrams flooded in. Everyone was treating this like a real-life treasure hunt. I tried to laugh it off. I typed a vague message. Be careful, not everything is what it seems. Delete. But someone had already screenshot it and sent it to the group. The frenzy escalated even more. People were planning to meet after school to investigate the storage room, bringing flashlights, makeshift tools, even walkie-talkies. Panic started gnawing at me. What if someone actually caused damage or got caught by a teacher? Worse, what if someone suspected me? I was supposed to be anonymous in this whole chaos, the mastermind behind the legend, but now I felt exposed. My hands were shaking as I typed another message. Maybe it's better to leave it alone, seriously. Delete. But the group ignored it. The hunt was already underway. People were standing outside the school, whispering and giggling nervously, ready to find the secret basement. And of course, rumors spread like wildfire. Some even whispered to teachers that something suspicious might be happening. I decided I had to intervene subtly. I sent another cryptic message. It's too dangerous to go there. Trust me, you don't want to see it. Delete. And then I watched from my room as notifications went haywire. One of the basement watchers shouted, "He's warning us. This is serious." Others debated whether to call the principal or proceed cautiously. The real panic set in when one of my classmates, let's call her Mia, tried to enter the storage room anyway. I could almost hear the squeak of the old door in my imagination, the way the floorboards would creak under her weight. I held my breath. Then it happened. One of the supervising teachers walked down the hall and saw her fiddling with the lock. She yelled something about unauthorized access, and suddenly the entire basement investigation turned into chaos. Kids were running, hiding, laughing nervously, trying to explain themselves. And me? I sat frozen, realizing my joke had nearly caused a real incident. My phone was blowing up. Messages flooded in from every angle. Are you okay? Did you see what's happening? You have to tell us the truth. I couldn't respond. The panic had reached a level I had never anticipated. People were genuinely worried, teachers were involved, and somewhere in the chaos, my secret felt dangerously close to being exposed. The funniest and worst part was how seriously everyone took it. Some claimed to have seen strange shadows in the room. Others were convinced that Mia had found something supernatural. One kid even joked that I had hidden a cursed object there and that I was manipulating everyone. Laughter, fear, and suspicion blended into a chaotic storm. I realized in that moment that I had crossed a line. My fun experiment had become a real-life drama with consequences. The thrill I felt was mixed with pure terror. I had turned friends into sleuths, created stress, and nearly caused trouble with the school administration. And yet, even now, I couldn't bring myself to admit it was all a joke. The legend had taken on a life of its own, and revealing the truth might destroy the story. Later that evening, after everyone had returned home, the chat went silent. I scrolled through hundreds of messages, screenshots, and frantic updates. It felt surreal. The basement, the symbol of my playful deception, had nearly escalated into disaster. But here's the thing. No one knew it was all fabricated. Not a single soul. They were still convinced that there was a hidden secret, that I was somehow involved, that the basement held some mysterious truth. And part of me, the mischievous, attention-seeking part, thrived on it. I felt an odd mixture of pride, guilt, and excitement. I began to wonder how far I could push this without anyone realizing the truth. Could I keep them guessing forever? Or had I finally gone too far? The thrill was intoxicating, but the weight of responsibility was real. That night, I wrote one last message for the day. Tomorrow, everything changes. Prepare yourselves. Delete. And I smiled, knowing full well that the chaos would resume, that curiosity would spike, that suspense would grow, and no one had any clue that all of it, every single bit of drama, had been orchestrated by me. So, here's my question for you. If you had the power to manipulate reality with just a few words and timing, would you push it to the edge like I did? Or would you stop before it got dangerous? The weekend after the almost basement disaster, everything seemed to settle down. The chat was quieter, the chaos subsided, and the group slowly returned to regular memes and homework complaints. But deep down, I knew the legend was far from over. I had created something bigger than myself, a story that had its own momentum, and I was both terrified and thrilled by it. By Monday, whispers started again at school. The basement, the key, the shadows. People would glance at me in the hallways, smirk, and say things like, "We know something you're not telling us." My heart raced each time. Part of me wanted to confess, to finally admit that I had fabricated the entire saga, but another, stronger part of me, the mischievous, thrill-seeking part, refused. I had built a myth, and myths are more powerful when they remain untouchable. I continued to add subtle hints in the chat, always deleting before anyone could see the full message. Maybe it's happening sooner than you think. Delete. Not everyone will survive tomorrow night. Delete. Each deletion reignited curiosity, speculation, and just enough anxiety to keep people hooked. It was exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. Then came the Wednesday after that weekend. My phone buzzed incessantly with a group call notification. I ignored it first, thinking it was probably just someone rambling about homework. But then the messages started flooding in. "He's online. He's in the chat. Call him now." Curiosity won over my caution. I joined. The call opened, and immediately, all I heard was laughter, whispers, and frantic speculation. The group was in a frenzy over something completely mundane, a misplaced janitor's key. But they had convinced themselves it was connected to the basement. Some even said that the key was proof of everything I had hinted at. I stayed silent, barely breathing, listening to their theories escalate from reasonable to absurd in seconds. I could have confessed right then, could have said, "It's all a joke. There's no basement, no hidden secret, no key." But I didn't. Instead, I let them spin their stories, let them believe, let the suspense linger. The thrill of control was too intoxicating to resist. I was no longer just a student in the chat. I was a myth, a living narrative. The absolute climax came the following Friday. I had been absent-mindedly leaving tiny, cryptic messages for days, deleted immediately, as usual. That night, I typed one last message. It's time. Are you ready to see the truth? I hesitated, my finger hovering over delete. And then, before I could even consider leaving it, someone in the chat posted a screenshot of my message, claiming they had predicted I would say it. Notifications exploded. People were texting, calling, and even showing up at my house, jokingly insisting that I reveal the basement secret. I laughed nervously. My pulse raced. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, balancing between triumph and disaster. People were so invested, so convinced that the tension was almost tangible through my screen. I could see the mixture of excitement, fear, and anticipation in their faces through video messages they sent. The legend had reached its peak, and I was at the center of it. And yet, no one knew the truth. No one knew that all of it, the basement, the key, the shadows, the danger, had been nothing more than my imagination, my timing, and my desire for attention. I had crafted a story so convincing that it had spilled out of the chat and into reality, influencing behaviors, reactions, and emotions without me ever having to lift a finger beyond a few typed words. The aftermath was surreal. People continued to speculate, new theories emerged, and the group chat became a living storybook. Some students even started creating drawings, evidence boards, and timelines of my supposed secrets. The chaos I had orchestrated became a part of our school culture. And I watched quietly, savoring the drama, feeling the mix of pride, fear, and a strange kind of guilt that comes from knowing you've manipulated reality in the most harmless but powerful way. Months later, the chat remains active. The basement is still out there in their imaginations, a legend that refuses to die. People joke about it, whisper about it, occasionally ask me cryptic questions, and I continue my game. Every now and then, I leave a message just long enough to spark curiosity, then delete it, watching the reactions unfold like a movie I'm directing from behind the scenes. Sometimes I wonder, should I finally come clean? Should I tell them it was all fabricated, that the basement never existed, that the key was imaginary? But then I imagine the disappointment, the shattering of suspense, and the end of the legend. I can't do it. The story is bigger than the truth now, and maybe that's what makes it so perfect. So here I am, months later, still anonymous, still the center of a myth that I created from nothing. I laugh quietly to myself whenever someone whispers about the basement or wonders what he really knows. They still believe there's a secret, a hidden truth. They don't know that the greatest secret of all is that there's no secret at all, just a bored kid, a few deleted messages, and a lot of imagination. And here's my final question to you. If you had the chance to create a legend, to manipulate curiosity, suspense, and fear without anyone realizing it, would you do it? Or would you reveal the truth before it got out of hand? Because in the end, sometimes the most powerful secrets are the ones that exist only in people's minds.